say you have money and I have food. As it turns out, I want money and you want food. So that's great for the both of us. I say, hey, do you want food for your money? And you reply with a hearty yes. And once you accept my offer, we have officially entered into an agreement, and the law calls this agreement a contract. Okay, so far so good. So why do we care? Let's say after we make this agreement, you pay me your money, and then I say, suddenly I don't like you, and I don't want to give you food anymore. You're probably like, wait, you can't do that, that's not fair. And that's exactly what the law thinks as well. As long as the contract involves some exchange of value, and we're both super serious about our promises, the law will make the contract happen. There's two ways you can do that. First of all, it could tell me, hey, you promised to give him food, you should do that. That's the remedy of specific performance. Or more commonly, it could also tell me, since you broke your promise, how about you pay up the value of the food to make amends, as if you had done your promise. But that's the remedy of damages. Now you're probably thinking at this point, wow, the law is really serious about contracts. And you'd be right about that. The law doesn't like destroying contracts at all. That's the principle of sanctity of contract. But of course, exceptional situations exist. Here's the other. Let's say you pay me your money, and all of a sudden, my kitchen just explodes, and I can't serve you the food anymore. Well, that's just too bad for both of us, and the law might say that our contract has been frustrated. Or I could tell you that I sell the best potatoes ever, and then we enter into that contract between us on that basis. And then you realize I'm not even selling you potatoes. The law's not too happy with that, and that's the doctrine of misrepresentation. Finally, let's say I hold a knife to your neck and tell you, you better give me your money for my food or else. The law's going to be really unhappy, and to that, the law says that a contract made under duress is voidable. Of course, these are just illustrations that barely scratch the surface of contract law, but I hope it's given you a great idea, or at least some idea, of what the subject is about. If you're a law student watching this, don't forget.
Okay, so anyone wants to volunteer to tell me anything you learned or gathered or stood out to you while looking at that video? Yes, Brian? Misrepresentation. Very good. So a concept stood out to Ria's called misrepresentation. Nadia? A contract is an agreement. Very good. What is a contract? So you learned what is a contract. Anybody else? Is it bound by law?
Yes.
So what does that mean? If it is bound by law? Right, this is a promise that has to be fulfilled. So you saw where someone entered into a contract and two persons entered into the contract, right? So there was agreement. It was not forced, right? So that is what we'll be looking at today. What constitutes a contract? What is a contract? So this was the document that you were looking at yesterday. broken, there will be legal consequences, right? Okay, good. So we have here that a contract is not just a simple exchange of promises between families and friends, but it must be clear that it is a legally binding document and it can be written or verbal. Can you tell me some simple verbal contracts that you make oftentimes and we don't realize that it probably is an agreement or contract? When it's a taxi, so when you go to the taxi, what happens? What's the agreement there? Alright, so that is like a non-verbal agreement. So it is verbal. So it could be implied. So that is being implied by conduct, right? So you can enter into agreement verbal, non-verbal, or by conduct. Very good. So you agree to pay the driver upon reaching your destination. Very good. Anybody else? Yes, Jelena. Okay, so borrowing something implies that you have to give it back after. Okay, a simple agreement. Buying something from the cafeteria, good. So you have an offer there and you accept the offer. Okay, good. Janisha. Okay, anybody else? Okay, any questions so far? So now we go into the second part of the lesson, which is 5 characteristics of all contracts. How many of you all read this section of the notes? Most person, alright, good. So we will go through the 5 characteristics of all contracts. So we've established the fact that there is an agreement. So you have 5 characteristics or 5 elements that all contracts must have in order for it to be considered valid, right? So agreements, there must be offer, there must be acceptance. Wait, before we go on to number 2, if I do not accept the offer, is it a contract? No. Can we do something? I'm hearing it. A negotiation. So let's say with the food, with the video, he didn't like the person, so he didn't want to give him the food anymore, but he took the money. So there was an agreement, but that agreement was broken. But let's say it wasn't because he didn't like the person. Let's say he didn't have enough money to purchase the food. He could have negotiated, right, for a smaller price, a reduced price. And that is called a counter offer. Right? Okay, so consideration. So let's say when you will enter any taxi this morning in Chelsea, did you make any considerations in your mind? Did you think about it before? That, okay, what were some of the things you thought about? Right, so you would have ensured that you have enough money to pay before you enter the taxi. So that is consideration, right? So you consider that you would have to, it is a promise to pay the person, even if it's even $1, right? So there was consideration being made that contract will have occurred when? Alright, so you all got C. Right, very good. The term capacity refers to an ability to act responsibly. Very good. If you didn't get it correct and you don't understand the answer, you could indicate, right? Number 3, for a contract to be valid, there must be offer and acceptance. Very good. Which of the following is a characteristic? Is not a characteristic